I say welcome, good morning from Baum. Baum today is facilitating this. My name is Kilian, and I'm handing over to my colleague Philip.
Thank you. Who is just following your guideline and typing in the company behind his name. I will take over the presentation from you. Move this here. Okay, we were here. A warm welcome from me as well. Thank you everyone for joining us in our little, hopefully highly interactive workshop. We've thought of something that derives a little bit from just sitting there, sipping your coffee and listening to us talking the whole time. We want to get you involved, and we hope that you enjoy it as much as we already enjoyed it preparing this. Before we start, we want to give you a little overview of what you're about to expect today, what Decide is, who, well, our speakers and presentation people are. First of all, Decide, that's the project that we're hosting this capacity building workshop from. Decide is an abbreviation for developing energy communities through informative and collective actions, with today a huge focus on the energy communities that we hopefully want to answer questions that you have, and maybe take a little bit away the edge that you, or like, yeah, the dread that you feel starting one yourself, or maybe you have ideas already. So hopefully we can push you in the right direction here. On Decide, we have 9 pilots in 7 countries, and we'll have we have 11 deciders right now. We will have some more soon. So we'll have an open call, but we'll talk to you about this later on if you're interested. And yeah, that's it for Decide. Then Kilian and myself are from Baum. Just to give you a short overview, we're a consultancy for enterprises, utility municipalities.
Philip, yeah, you're still sharing the first slide.
I'm still sharing, thank you. It's not changing here.
Yeah, now it's changing. Now it's changing.
Now it's changing. Okay, then maybe different.
Now we are at Decide.
If I move it on my other monitor again, does it change?
No, right now it's still displayed Decide.
Then I will not look into the camera directly, because for whatever reason it doesn't work. I'll like look right above the camera. Please apologize for that. Okay, so yeah, we were at the Decide slide. We have 9 pilots and 11 deciders right now. We have a little map where they're located. The yellow ones are the pilots, and the Google Map thingies are the deciders. And then Kilian and myself, and also Ludwig, who's on the expert panel later on, we all work for Baum. We're a consultancy who does mainly, well, municipalities, enterprises, regions, and governments. But we're also always actively participating in Horizon 2020 or Bridge, or just in general European and German research programs to broaden our horizon a little bit. And lastly, before we start with the interactive part, with the storytelling that I'll come to in a minute as well, we want to have a little bit of a definition of what energy communities are for this meeting. We are aware that we have multiple people with multiple points of views. We just want to ask you to join us in kind of like our definition for today. So we'll have a base to work from, and just also if you talk to other people later on, you kind of know what we're talking about. First of all, we have the energy community directives. In that, we have the definition of 2 energy communities. The first one is the renewable energy community. Second one is the citizen energy community. I want to leave this slide as it is here and not go into overly much detail. So just take away renewable and citizen energy community. And the principles of the energy communities for us are the following. We want the energy communities to provide environmental, economic, and social community benefits for members or the local area that they are in, depending on how they're structured. By empowering citizens, and that's hopefully something that we do today. If you are looking to start your energy community, to have renewable energies included, and basically to not have anything else included, like not any other non-sustainable energy source. As I said, the citizen energy communities and the renewable energy communities that we listed earlier are the main sources of empowering the people. And also we want to have support in governance. We want to have open and voluntary people. We basically want to have people who are interested in the energy communities and push it forward through a communal effort. Then we will come to our experts. We'll have only 3 experts today, as Rita unfortunately is sick this week. But we'll still have Ludwig, Dirk, and Esther joining us here in the call, and also helping you and us later on with all the questions that may appear that you have towards energy communities. We'll have a short introduction by each and every one of them. I'd say we go from left to right. So Ludwig, if you want to start, please do.
What we're not going to change is the 99 seconds, though. Don't make more use of your time.
Yeah, you still only have 99 seconds.
Okay, and you know that you have to let your boss speak first.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, Baum as such has been introduced already. I'm Ludwig Karg, the executive director and also owner of the company. We started roughly 30 years ago, and our mission or vision is to support and foster sustainable development in Baum. That's of course a global issue, but over the years we realized that it's also to a big deal a local or at least a regional issue. When you talk in Europe, what is region? Some would claim that Germany is a region, but when we talk region, it's subnational. It's also, of course, big citizens or big cities. Of course, we have to somehow combine the global approaches and the local approaches, but in the sense of an energy system, or especially the electricity system being in the future a system of systems or cellular systems or whatever you call it, we have been tackling it from the regional side a lot in Baum, and of course over the years we met people like Dirk, and hello Dirk, and I'm happy to cooperate with you still on that. Today, we are involved quite a lot in developing means and measures where the European level cooperates with the national level, and I like that because at the end of the day, only on the local or regional level you get to the people, and not only to the money and the brains of the people, but also to their hearts. And this is what the energy communities are about, and that's why I'm with you.
Wonderful, thanks. Just 2 seconds above 99 seconds, I think. Handing over to Dirk.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dirk van Sint-Jan. I'm from Belgium, from the Dutch-speaking part. I'm the president of RESCOPEU, which is the European Federation of Citizen Energy Cooperatives. I'm president for my own cooperative, which is EcoPower, which was created 30 years ago in 1991. We started with 10 people around the kitchen table, and now we have about 65,000 members in mainly Flanders, and our projects are hydro, small hydro. We started with small hydro, but we also have about 20 large wind turbines. And we also produce wood pellets from locally sourced wood. And we are not only a producer of renewable energy, but also a supplier. So we got a supplier's license from the very beginning of the liberalization of the market in Flanders. And we supply about 1.7% of the Flemish households with their own green electricity. And with now the crisis, it seems our model is very interesting because we are now the cheapest supplier in Belgium. I'll keep it on this.
Thank you. Nice that you're with us today. And we're handing over to Esther. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Esther Hardy from the Netherlands. I work for over 20 years in the energy business as well as most of people do. As a strategist, as business development, mainly in the business development area. I started offshore. I worked in London, Scandinavia, and of course in the Netherlands. And yeah, in those building up those strategy, but also those business development projects, I realized that in the area I live in, also a lot of things need to be done. So I joined the corporation, the Energy Corporation 2030.now translated, and it's very interesting and very good to help them. I'm in the management board, so I do also the talks to the politicians and to help to set up really the production, but also help with other things if it comes to energy savings, energy, and to make a platform for energy ambassadors to help people here in my neighborhood. It's the area between Amsterdam and Utrecht, the Stichtse Vecht. And what I can tell about it, it's very interesting to do working for 20 years in an energy company and also the grid operator Alliander, to do it now in my neighborhood. It's the primary motor of the society you can help with. People are very happy that you help with it. And there's so much going on, then it's great to be part of it. Especially in my own neighborhood. Because it's not so difficult. That's what I found out working in those years. So why not for my own neighborhood? So that's why I'm doing it.
Thanks. And then we have Rita, who is not here for those who have not been in the beginning. She's saying hi to all of us. Then we can go further. So it's wonderful that we have all this expertise here, and we have even more expertise in the audience, I guess. But however, we are today going to focus on the expertise of our official experts. And why do we do that? Because we are really limited on time. We only want to take away 2.5 hours of your day today. And as you can see, there is kind of really unsharp numbers. We should kind of be a little bit further already, but you see like 9:33. So we have harsh timings today, and we're a little bit behind. We're gonna be finished at 11:30 today. So what's the general structure of the workshop? The general structure is a combination of giving input, then having breakout session exchange with your, either you call it seat neighbors, left to right, in an offline workshop, or you could also imagine that you are chatting just with your neighbors where you're at home and having like a very informal and open chat. And we're going to do it in triplets. And then you can come back always in those plenary sessions, and then we're going to have the Q&A session with the answers with our experts. And we have this kind of turnaround 3 times. And we're going to build that up with storytelling format, where 2 real projects are going to tell their stories, how they started in the first session, how it then went on in the second session, and with the mostly successful energy community project, then also how it's really going with the ongoing action being successful. That's the overall structure. And next slide, we then with that also can promise you that we won't ask, we will ask all relevant questions, but we won't be able to answer all of them. However, this is wonderful because it's mostly about the right questions, not about the right answers sometimes. And we also want to collect your constraints and all your questions that you have if it comes to the topic of energy communities and collective actions. And we also want to make it in a level where you can digest it. And as you can see on this picture, if you just want to take everything, you will never be able to work with it in the end. And with that, we can start with our first storytelling session. And we're welcoming Gerhard Meindl from Stadtwerke Wunsiedel and Hannah Rasper from epochal. And Philip, who first of all, did I miss something? And secondly, who shall start? Handing over to you.
I think you did great, and I don't really think you missed anything. I would say we go from left to right again. So we're going to start with Hannah's presentation. I'm going to stop my presentation now, so Hannah can take over.
Sure, wait a second. So, whoop. That should be working, right?
Yes, it works wonderful.
Okay, great. So, good morning. Also from my side, I'm happy to share like our little story. And I'm going to start with the early times of ecopa. And so the early times are not that long ago, but I'll start with us, the people who are behind that. And I'll start with us three. So this is Ettere, and we all have very different access to the energy transition or renewables. He started his journey with his master thesis in Costa Rica, researching about communities that took the energy transition in their own hands. As the second one of us, this is Ivan, who is like, let's say, the proper sales solar consultant. And then this is me. As a designer, I have a very like different access to that. And I produce products which make the energy transition more, this is more tangible and fun. And in this case, also colorful. So with these very different accesses to renewables, we all wanted to join a renewable energy community in the place where we live, which is Palermo. But we don't have anyone around, so there's no local energy community that we could join in Sicily. So we said, let's do this ourselves. We borrowed this amazing picture from another energy community, and we wanted to get our hands on that and get started. And then we got very much entangled in a lot of bureaucracy in Italy. We even applied for a grant. We crunched some numbers in Excel files. We created beautiful business models. And in the end, it was just 3 people who have different jobs and very little time. And we're almost about to give up already. And then an email arrived. From a friend who then said, "Dear Hannah, I'm following a webinar of this project, Decide, that you all heard about now. Could it be interesting for you?" Yes, it definitely was very interesting for us. So we applied and happily got accepted. And this is then where the second chapter starts, which I guess we're gonna get about later. That's it for now from ecopa side.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Hannah. And we'll have the second story of Gerhard.
Yes, a wonderful good morning from my side. I'm just trying to share my slide. You see it? Yeah.
Yes, we can see it now.
Yes, there was a little different setting for me and for SWW. After I had some, let's say, negative experience with a cooperative we wanted to start in Germany, which did not lift off because we could not come to a common opinion how to do it within the founders. I joined SWW, and we suddenly had to realize that in the right upper corner, you see a lot of people that had already invested in PV arrays that were co-financed with their money that were operated by SWW in the past. Second thing, we also had to realize that I think most of the German partners or attendees are aware of EEG. So it's a funding scheme for 20 years if you invested into PV sites. So the first attendees of that subsidy fell out of subsidy, and they approached SWW and asked how to proceed with their PV arrays still operative. And the second or third thing was that we entered into the GoFlex project dealing with energy flexibility. Then we migrated into Fever as a follow-up project. And we realized that the tool of energy communities is coming up. And also in the EdgeFlex project in parallel, it played a big role for us and still plays today. So we decided to enter that field as SWW, being a Stadtwerk, a multiple supplying company. And we want to use it for collecting participants that want to do energy supply on their own behalf and own responsibility. The only problem we still have is there is no active regulation in Germany yet, but we have prepared, let's say, 85% of it. And as soon as we get a piece of regulation, we will get started. This is it for the moment.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gerhard. We saw some questions coming in already in Mentimeter, so thank you for that. And we will have we have some questions coming in already. I saw one question that was directed towards ECOPA and SWW. So the people who presented, they will present 1 or 2 more times. So maybe they'll answer that question already. If not, they will answer those questions afterwards. So we'll send out an answer to that question, so we can stick to having our experts answering the other questions. But I think from what I know from the presentations, maybe the question will be answered already. All right, Kilian, can you pin the experts so that they're visible way better? Wonderful. Thank you very much for posting so many questions already. I will sort them. The top question is, can I see the question of others? So wonderful. A lot of people can see the other questions. I'm very grateful for that. That also makes it a little bit easier to, or that we know that stuff was upvoted and downvoted and you put in your questions.
The most important one is, can others, can I see the question of others? Yes, you can, and you can upvote them. So make use of it. Feel free to upvote those questions as you find interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll have some questions. I'll direct them to our experts. What do we have here? First of all, how to create an energy community or collaborative action from the regulatory perspective. Can we have one of the experts, maybe Dirk, answering that question for us?
Yeah, of course, this is a question where the answer might differ from country to country. It all depends on how the directives of the clean energy for all Europeans package, they were transposed in different legislations and regulations. And yeah, so in the directives, there is no specific legal entity mentioned. But if you not only read the directives, but also the accompanying texts, so I always forget the word in English. So there's a lot of text added to the directives, which are more or less a report of the discussions and the thoughts that were accompanying all the people for instance, in the Parliament, the European Parliament, or the European Council and the European Commission, and all the ideas around the directives. So that you see that as it is not the aim of making profit, that this actually in most countries leads to legal entities that are not-for-profit organizations or cooperatives or trusts or other legal entities rather than the other legal entities that exist. And so now actually all member states, they have to, there are some things they can choose, but this is what they have to look at all the obstacles there are for citizens to set up energy communities. And after having a sort of inventory of all these obstacles, they should get rid of the obstacles by creating an enabling framework. Most of the countries of the member states, they have finalized or are finalizing their transposition, but the enabling frameworks, they are. I think you can count them on two hands. So they're still working on it. In my own country, let's say in the region of Flanders, we didn't see anything of the enabling framework so far. So the transposition is rather easy. You just translate it, the text into your legislation, but then the enabling framework is crucial. But they have to do it. So it's up to everyone who in your member state, in your region, you have to follow up on it. We are trying to do this as well as a federation. And also the European Commission has now instated, for instance, the repository for energy communities. And there's also one of the aims is to do the follow-up of not only the transposition, but also of the enabling frameworks, and then evaluate whether this really helps citizens and municipalities and small businesses in every member state to set up energy communities. I hope this is an answer.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that. Then we have the next question, which we have here. What are all the stakeholders that should be taken into consideration? As one that also got quite a lot of upvotes. That one, maybe Ludwig, you can answer.
Stakeholders that should be taken into consideration to form an energy community, you mean?
Yes.
I mean, first of all, by definition, and as Dirk said, we can refer to the directives from the Commission, but we also have to look a bit at the transposition, so the national implementation of the framework. Depends, of course, a lot, but if you look at the idea behind, first of all, the members are not the big investors. At least the big investors should not be in control of the community or of the organization of the cooperative or company or whatsoever. Mainly, but that depends a lot on the definition of the community, and maybe we come to that. Mainly today, we believe that it's a combination of prosumers, so people that somehow contribute with generating electricity or heat, and also what we sometimes call the prostormers, so people that generate and consume at the same time and also own and operate a battery, so a storage. So this is probably the main members. But, and I guess we will come to that, what is the role of a local utility according to the directives of the Commission? Every small company, SME company, can be a member of such a community. If so, it can be a company that is in the area, but it why not could also be a small energy generator, operator, even trader. They can be a member. And in the directives, it also says that a municipality as such, which is sort of representing their citizens, can be a member or investor. So it's not limited to people, but it is limited to, say, small organizations as members and organizations that represent people, like a municipality.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I would suggest that we go for one more question before we let you head into your well-deserved coffee break. I would ask that question to Esther, and that is here in the chat, in the Mentimeter. Are energy communities limited to power bracket self-supply? What other energy-related services could be managed by an energy community?
The power supply is of course important, and renewable energy, of course. And what an energy community can do is to do that in participation, so that people can buy a stock or can buy a solar panel and get a revenue from the panel. So that's the additional contribution of the energy corporation. But that's not what you're asking. You ask, well, what can a corporation do more? What we do more is in our energy corporation, we have also ambassadors, and they in the neighborhood or in this area where I live in, people can go to those ambassadors and ask questions about energy savings, about what kind of how do I heat my house well and efficiently? Do I need isolation from a roof? What can I do? So that's a very cheap way or easy way, and a role you can play for people in the community. Besides the energy, also if you look at sustainability, there is also a bit more, like healthy life, food which is bio, grew in bio-based environment, etc. So you. In our community, we do different things. Yes. Wonderful. And also, especially also for the youth, to connect the youth, we go to schools and help. Often also the school here, we have a large school from around 1,400 people, and in the other village also something like that, kids, and to engage them in games. For energy, but also from cooking, how to cook healthy, just to get people engaged. The engagement role is very important actually in communities.
And Ludwig is raising his hand. Only please make it very short because we are on the break time already.
Okay. I think it's important, and this is also in the directives. The directives do not claim that it's all about energy self-supply. It says a community can be built to provide whatever type of energy-related services. So another good example would be to create a community that, for example, manages the charging of electric vehicles, does that optimally, using flexibility of these charging systems, aggregating it and selling the flexibility to the local grid operator. You know, this could also be the definition of an energy community, providing services to the overall system.
Definitely, yes, yes. You, I think that's a technical part you can take as a community to have a tailor-made supply and demand, to keep it in space. In the Netherlands, we have a problem of congestion. Like that the national grid cannot accommodate the back delivery of the electricity at some places at some certain times. So to have the demand and supply well connected to each other is a great thing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We guess that there would be a lot of interest in having discussions also going further and also answering much more of the questions. But however, we are aware that it was 9 a.m. or for some of you maybe even 8 a.m. And you might not have had the time to do yourself a coffee or to go to the toilet or whatever you would need. And I'd say welcome back.
Welcome back, everyone.
We would like to ask you to switch on your video for a second, only for a second, and beware it's recorded, but don't be afraid of the recording. Much more, you should be afraid of the picture that we're going to take in a minute. If you're up for it, please open your camera, and we would like to do a group picture of all the participants, showing a thing which you think it's kind of relevant for building up stable energy communities. I put my earplugs here because I think it's very important to listen to other people. Can you? So I'm going to give you 1 more minute to switch on. So I'm going to do a screenshot in 3. Oh wait, 1 second. Please leave it in the no problem. I can't switch off those who are not having the video on. Teilnehmer also. Okay, I'm gonna do it like that. Okay, screenshot time in 3, 2, 1, and screenshot. If you don't want to be seen on any postings or whatever, just put it straight, like directly before, like in front of the camera, so nobody can recognize you. Okay, done. Thanks, and we can go on with some more storytelling. If you have any other technical questions, please feel free to write them in the chat. And yeah, handing over to Hannah.
To Hannah again, yes.
What about asking the question by voice?
Thank you for the question between, but we decided, as we have a lot of participants here today, we decided for the format of making it democratized, and using Mentimeter where you can upvote it, plus also make use of the chat, but we are not taking questions from the audience via voice today. Sorry for that. Handing over to Hannah.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll walk you through my chapter 2. You can see that all right?
Yes.
Okay. So chapter 2, after the start. So we stopped like when we got into the side program and got all very excited to get started and take another step towards our own energy community here. And then what happened is that we got in our first meeting and met our mentor, Johan from Enbro. So it was a match. And it was a great start for us to work together with him. He helped us like a lot to wrap our mind around some like numbers, some technical issues, and also like to invite us into the grand scheme. And we had a really good time together. So we started to identify 2 sites where we want to, or where we can envision an energy community in our region. There you see the map of Palermo, and we identified 2 sites, which one is Monreale, which is like a small mountain community. And the other one is Lodzen, which is a social housing area. And we find them both very interesting for different reasons. One, for it being social housing and like sort of like outside the city block. So that would be great to just like have solar panels everywhere there. And the other one is the picture on the bottom that you see is the municipality in Monreale, which we would put that on. One is a school, one is a police house, and the other one are firefighters. So 3 buildings which are already in the hand of the municipality. So we basically only have to involve one stakeholder, and that could work very well together. And then we got that further with with our mentor Johan, who helped us to put together like a kick-ass PowerPoint. And here you can see slides and numbers and very convincing graphs, with which we can now go to our stakeholders and get started the conversation. We got back together with our supporting organizations. So our network is like made also of Legambiente Sicilia, which is like the Sicilian branch of one of the largest environmental organizations in Italy, and Asud Sicilia, which is more like an activist group for energy justice. So with them together, it became like a nice mix of energies and people to get that started and going. And then we had all this nice plan and hit our like second problem, because the legislation until then was that the members of the energy community must be connected through a medium low voltage cabin. These like cabins that you see there in the picture. Unfortunately, there was no way how to find out like which houses belong to which cabin, because the organization responsible for that would not respond to any kind of calls, any kind of information. So there's like no way. And we also got together with a mayor of a town here in Sicily, not even he had access to this kind of information. So great plan, great legislation in place, but no way how to put this into practice. Then you can see there the date of 1st December of 2021. So this just happened end of the year, that there's a new normative in place, which changed that from these like small cabins to larger ones. So this kind of obstacles out of the way now. So now we're trying to figure out what this actually means in practice, and how we then can get started to like adapt to these new normatives. So that's very new, and let's see where it leads us, but that's great news so far. Our next steps are exactly this: to understand this new normative and legislative, and start talking with our stakeholders. We will start with the one in Monreale, it's like mountain municipality, figuring out our numbers, figuring out some like last steps of like ownership of the solar panels, and like organizing a first information event there with the community and the people there. And yeah, this is what we have to do now. And our bright shining future, we would love to like build a video platform, just like a video academy with all the steps documented, what is necessary to build up an energy community, where you already have like documents in place, and mapping all over Sicily new energy communities. That would be great. And our vision is to actually like make building your own energy community as easy and as pleasant as such as Sunday aperitivo with friends. So that's our goal, and we would love to achieve that, to make it super, super easy and fun.
Wonderful, thank you very much, Hannah. I can taste your Sunday or this Sunday aperitivo on my tongue already. So hopefully you'll get there and you can cheer to your two other friends. Gerhard, let's see how you advanced with your story.
Yes, for sure. So it's not that that fussy and funny like Hannah showed, because we are still, as I mentioned before, we are still bound to having no regulation to form it, but we stick to what was already there from the EU. So we now talked about who could be in it and who should be in it and who can support it. And as Ludwig mentioned, it's allowed that a municipality could be a member or maybe a peer. So this means that we talk about SWW being a grid operator, as you see it in the left down corner. So they are 100% owned by municipality, so they could take the role of grid operator. They could also take the role of community operator, and maybe they could take a role of aggregator, like they used to do in the EU projects before, the GoFlex, the Fever, and the EdgeFlex. And then we just asked those participants that joined us in those projects before, whether they want to continue the cooperation with SWW, and they agreed and signed in. So for the time being, this is what we have in roles in there. We have residential consumers, commercial consumers, residential prostormers, as Ludwig mentioned before, and you have a selection of that generation units that are, let's say, at hand, sorry about that, and can be implemented. And in the meantime, we also found out that we can have the internal exchange of energy and, let's say, remuneration, maybe on a peer-to-peer basis out of the FEVER project, but this is still upcoming. And the real connection to the existing market, we choose to do with forming a separate sub-balancing group, which only consists of the peers of the energy community. And we also hook it to another activity 120 kilometers in the west of Wunsiedel and SWW, to another partner in the FEVER project, which is doing exactly the same, so that we are even thinking about preparing some regional exchange of flexibilities within that tooling. So this means we have a direct connection to the existing market scheme, but we have no regulation yet to enter it, really. And what's in the package for the future, I will show in the next session.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Gerhard.
While you still have the chance to put in your questions in Mentimeter, and also not forget to upvote it. It's good that we can't downvote, I realized. But upvote those which you find very pressing and super interesting to be answered. And also Philip is already identifying those who we are going to ask to our experts. So I'm gonna pin you again, starting with Ludwig, Esther, and Dirk. You're pinned. Philip, what are the questions that people are interested in?
Yeah. Can you send the Mentimeter link in the chat again while I direct questions at experts? Thank you.
Again?
The first one that I got here that is very far up is, it jumps every time someone votes and then I lose track of it. How to include county halls and energy communities of citizens. I would maybe expand it a little bit on how can municipalities, public authorities, etc., be involved in the energy communities. And I would ask that question to Esther.
Thank you. Energy communities are very close to municipalities because they work together. What are the local legislations? And they have, at least in my energy community, we have a lot of talks with them. But there is one important legislation thing the the local authorities can do, and that is make it incentivize or make it obligatory when an investor asks for a permit to have local participation so through an energy company or whatever, to make sure that the people who have to look to solar fields or to windmills, that the profit also goes back to the people who live there. And so they feel connected to the environment, so that not only the supplier gets the profit from it. And the reason why you need that incentive in the permits or the rules is that if you have an investor which has a roof, or an investor who buys a lot of agricultural land and he wants to have solar panels on it, he goes for the most profit he can get because he's an investor. And that's what we see here as well. So they need the municipality to tell them yes, you can do it, but we need local participation, and it can be 100%, 70%, 50% local participation, but it's sometimes it needs to be forced in that direction because the investor wants to have the best profit and also to as fast as possible. And corporations have the image that they are more slow, people are not professional, they don't want to make profits because that's how they sell themselves. If you look at the facts, it's not true, but that's what's in people's minds sometimes. So that's a difficult thing. And if the municipalities force the owners or help to, if you have initiatives to at least talk to energy communities or energy corporations, then you can have that participation or local participation or local involvement better covered. And it's good for the municipality to have the people on board and they feel heard. And it's good for the environment, because if people invest in their own environment, hopefully they will do it wisely. Or in general, they will do it as wisely as possible. So that's a really call for authorities to be wise with that. Go for that local participation.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Isna. Dirk, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, so because in Belgium we saw that we also incentivized municipalities to take these decisions, and Netherlands was, of course, our example, to take decisions that at least 50% of big wind farms, solar farms should be offered to the local community. The reaction of the big developers was they created their own cooperative. So a sort of fake, we call it a fake cooperative, but according to Belgian law, they are identical to us. And that's why when the directives were being made by the European Commission, Parliament, and the member states, we stressed that the electricity companies or bigger companies that are where their main income comes from energy production or distribution or whatever could not be at least in the governance of these energy communities. So, but be sure they will not give a piece of their projects away that easily. There are exceptions. For instance, in the latest offshore wind concessions in Scotland, at least 3 of the concessions, there is a collaboration between an Italian developer, which is called Falk Renewables, and they always include the local communities. And so in their projects in the UK. So there are exceptions, but be aware that they will try to copy and put something in place to actually keep control of the whole installation.
Yeah, agree. So therefore it should be local participation. Energy corporation, you can fake it. So it's a local participation.
Even that they claim that they do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just be aware that they.
It's a difficult thing. Yeah. Be aware.
I have picked another question for Ludwig to involve him a little bit as well. The question in Mentimeter is how to engage with future participants, but I would expand that to what kind of members do I want in my energy community? What should I look out for? And then also, how do I engage with those future participants? Ludwig, please.
Well, we had that before a bit, and of course it's the people that are the consumers, the prosumers, the prostormers. But again, I think Hannah said it. She wants to have it super easy, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be super easy, because providing electricity, for example, 24/7 is not an easy thing. I mean, establishing an organization that operates it, trades it, and so on, that's sort of easy. But managing the technology is not so easy, and no one really wants to get into all these islands of supply, and every house creates their own energy system, not connected to the others. I think this is not what people want. So when you ask who should be involved, professionals. You need professionals when you do that. So either you have them in the community, you happen to have some, I don't know, engineers or whomsoever, but normally you are not lucky enough to have these people. And then you could a bit rely on these incumbent operators of the system, like a utility, which, like in the case of SWW that Gerhard mentioned, they are very open to support such upcoming new elements in the energy system, so the energy communities or cooperatives or whatsoever. So I would go for cooperation, not so much confrontation.
And maybe we can see also in the next input from Gerhard something on that. And in my microtiming, there is written input from a successful implemented energy community. So Gerhard, are you successfully implemented? I want to hand over to you with the final part of the storytelling. And at this point, Anna, thank you for your input before. We leave you out in this round because you're still on the way a little bit more. So it's have the last input from Gerhard. By the way, that was planned like that. If you're not leaving it out spontaneously. I'm gonna ask in the experts, and Gerhard, you can share.
Also, Gerhard, before you start, Ruth, I have your question noted, and we have a little bit more time for the experts after the next round, and I'll direct it towards Esther then.
Yes, I'll take it. You see my slide?
Yes, we do.
As I mentioned before, we are 85% done. Maybe to cover two of those other questions that came along in the chat, we really see the energy community as a tool to boost the participation of all our customers in SWW. Maybe there's 1, 2, 3, 4 elder guys that do not like the idea, but they will vanish within the next 3 years by age. So this helps a lot. And we also open to give more roles to an energy community. It could be a fundraising instrument, maybe for setting up a battery, because up to now, it still is not easy to operate a battery in the German regulation. So if you're a grid operator, you need the battery for stable operation. But after you have charged the battery, you are lost, because if you discharge it, you are doing some sort of a sales process, which you are not allowed to do. So I personally see the energy community as maybe a third, or taking a third market role, but as becoming a battery operator with an own funding scheme. And it's open. It's open how we can proceed. And to jump back to the picture, the idea is, if we really have a regulation coming up and we fulfill it and we start operation with the first energy community in the vicinity of SWW, we are really keen on checking whether the whole SWW, as a DSO, as a retailer, as an aggregator of everything, can become an energy community itself, because it's 100% owned by the municipality. So this is the next step we want to take. And we will not prevent anybody from forming additional energy communities around us. We will support them. We will offer the services. We will offer the know-how. And in the long run, we want to end up in the right upper corner, where we want to have a regional entity, which is called, or should be called then, Zukunftsenergie Nordostbayern, which means a regional agglomeration of municipalities that join forces for renewable energy future, which as an outcome maybe has a CO2-free region, zero balancing of CO2, covering all sectors by using all means of cooperative energy responsibility. So this is our utmost goal, and we will put that into the strategy. The strategy paper I'm working on right now will be called the Wunsiedel Way 4.0, but it will still take 1 to 3 months until we can finalize it. Okay, this is what we are out for.
Thank you very much for the last time, Gerhard. I wanna, before we go into me asking some more questions to the experts, I didn't want to forget the question that Ruth asked me. I just have to find it in the chat. It was regarding the earlier question that Esther answered in the last round. And Ruth said that she wanted to know about the schemes that Esther knows to include country halls as part of energy communities. So for example, with an agreement or with some kind of law or yeah, benefits.
Yes, very important. We decide not to be independent from the government, local government. That's important because people, they don't feel heard by the municipalities or by the local government. So that's why you have your corporation to be heard. So that's the assemblation. That's a bit how it's designed. So we do have our talks at the policy officers of the government, of the local government, but they invite us or we invite them to talk to them, but we are still independent. And that independency is very important. Is that answering your question? What we do with the new politicians, because the politicians, there are now elections, so they make the programs, and they will be elected, and they will be in town hall if they are elected. What we do is to inform the new politicians, actually inform them about how the energy transition is, what are the aspects, what are the facts, because there is a lot of non-information, or there is a gap of, I would say differently. We have to educate them a bit about the energy system, to make sure that they make good decisions later on. So that we see as a task, but we are independent. It's very important to be independent. Yeah.
Maybe I can add something to this. So when you oversee all the member states, it's very different in every country. Also, the transposition of the directives will lead to very different legislations and regulations. For instance, in Belgium, the grid is owned by the municipalities, by sort of cooperative of municipalities. So actually they can't engage into energy communities because they own the grid. So they have two roles which should be separated, at least in Belgium, Flanders. But in France, for instance, the municipalities are sometimes very small. You have municipalities of 24 people. So there, the collaboration between citizens and municipalities is very close. So they have special legal entities, a special type of cooperatives for this. So it will depend from country to country, the roles municipalities have or had in the past. Are they the producers themselves? So there were quite a lot of public monopolists. Like in Sweden, it's a state, Vattenfall is a state-owned company. In Germany, you have a lot of Stadtwerke. So it depends from country to country, and the role municipalities can take in energy communities will depend on legislation in the past and so on.
Thank you, Ruth. I hope that answered your question. I went through the Mentimeter. There are a lot of questions now, and I picked out some that I personally liked. The first one is that I liked, probably asked by a researcher, because the question was, what can researchers do to improve the situation in a country where energy communities do not yet exist. So is there anything that the like researchers or that general just the universities or the people who research in these areas can do to improve the situation or to influence maybe people of importance to nudge them towards energy communities? Well, if Gerhard raises his hand, maybe he can tell from a first person experience, and then the experts just feel free to join in and add.
So from our experience, it helped a lot that the researchers gave us a huge backup in the existing EU projects. As I mentioned in my first slide, we had a continuous flow of information coming in and also experience to be built up, starting with the first project on the Flexi. Then we entered into the continuous project, and we entered the energy community, where we introduced our ideas of participation and combined it with the researchers' idea on implementing energy communities by sticking as close as possible to the existing regulation of EU and to overcome some hurdles that were built up or that exist in Germany as of today. So it helps a lot if you get some money out of the research activities to just do it, to just use existing personnel inside SWW to make them think and spend their time and come along with solutions.
Thank you very much. Maybe Ludwig, can you add something to it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Philip, let me advertise a bit. We didn't discuss it in length yet. Maybe Dirk, we can exchange a bit on that. When the Commission started developing these directives, a big discussion was that maybe these energy communities could solve one of the biggest problems at least in the electricity supply, namely, we need to be more flexible. So we need more flexibility. So if you are an energy community and you want to, for example, self-supply and you want to maximize your self-supply, there is an intrinsic motivation that you be flexible inside the community at least. So energy communities and flexibility are somehow connected. I'm saying that because there's lots of calls going on European level, but also on national levels, but also on transnational levels. I put you some connections in the chat soon. There's a clean energy transition partnership coming. And the topics that all these projects will have in the future, or many of these projects will have in the future, is how do we find the people? How do we motivate the people to be flexible, to contribute to flexibility, organize it, manage it correctly, bring it to market, or at least to the benefit of their local community? So the question was, what should we research? What can we do? Research the relation of social, societal, and technical and market. That's most important, I think, and there are lots of calls out there. But I think Dirk would support that.
If I can add something, so to convince the legislators, whether at the European level or at national, regional level, they need to. You can convince them by showing them what happens if people unite in energy communities and energy cooperatives, and what it brings to the whole energy system. And that's where researchers they can look at it, they can research it, bring figures together. That's a lot of the Commission always wants to see what your movement, what are the figures, kilowatt hours produced, megawatt installed, how many members, what is the participation. And that's also one of the things this energy community energy repository will have to do for the Commission, is bring to surface what these thousands of initiatives across Europe do. We don't have a clear view. For instance, in Denmark, there are about 1,000 initiatives, 300 district heating cooperatives, but no one else knows about it. Only even the Danes, they're not united. They're all local, regional. So to bring this all to surface, that's something researchers can do. And we also, to try to bundle it a bit, we have a base camp group for researchers, an academical base camp group where PhD students and professors, they exchange. I sometimes follow it, but it is important that we connect with researchers. For instance, we had a study being done when the directives were being made. So the Commission wanted to see what is the potential of energy communities. And it turned out from this research of CE Delft, so it was a research institute in the Netherlands, that by 2050, when a lot more will be done with electricity, that about half of the electricity could come from the local level, from citizens at home with solar panels on their roof, batteries, electrical cars, solar farms near the village, some wind turbines. So about half of the electricity we need then will come from the local level. But this has a big impact. Now, as a consumer at home, you have to pay for the high tension, high voltage lines, for the mid voltage lines, and for the low voltage lines. But in the future, high voltage consumers should pay also for the low voltage grid and the mid voltage grid because they use it. Because the electricity now not only goes from the big nuclear power plants to the consumer at home, but also from the consumer at home to the big industrial consumers. So, but this is a huge change. Citizens up to now have been the cow, the milking cow for all the others. But this has to change. We want the energy transition to succeed, but the citizen must be put at the center. And this was the main sentence in the new directives. We want to put the citizen in the center of the energy transition, and it was not the consumer. So the word citizen was specially chosen. It was not the consumer; it was the citizen.
Thank you. I will derive a little bit from our concept, and I have found a nice question for Hannah that I want to incorporate here quite quickly, because I think it's a nice little light question after the heavy topic of research. It says here, Hannah, what was the strongest argument to convince the municipality?
I cannot tell you yet, because we haven't convinced them yet. Well, I guess it's always also the economic part, just to have get your numbers right, and that it's easy to do. And I think what also works always very well here, but this is an assumption, so I can tell you in a month, I hope, is the impact for the very strong and local connection, but also the integration in a European context. So to be the first ones, to be the pilots, to be the upfront with this new thing, which is a storyline which has been working well with other projects in the past. But yeah, let's see. I don't know yet.
All right, thank you very much. But at least you already offered some suggestions. I see Dirk and Ludwig both raising their hands.
Well, the answer is money. You should bring to clear for politicians, whether they're from extreme left to extreme right, they all understand and agree that we keep the money that is now leaving our country, our village, for buying electricity, for buying gas, coal, oil, whatever, even uranium. So the money is leaving our pockets, the pockets of our neighbors, going to regimes we actually don't really like. Like Russia, like Kazakhstan, like Niger, like Saudi Arabia. And if we turn to renewables and we become very efficient with it, between brackets, the members of my cooperatives, they only consume half of the average Flemish households. So that is also something very important, that being a member of an energy community leads to better using the energy. because you know. So if you tell politicians, well, this amount of money is leaving your municipality because you rely on gas from Russia for heating and you rely on coal from Poland for making electricity, then and if you turn to renewables and you become very efficient, this money stays in your municipality and it accumulates. And we can bring you to regions like in Germany, some regions, in Austria, where they did it 20 years ago, and you can see what the effect is of turning to renewables and the accumulation of the money that is not leaving the community, but is staying. And with this, you can convince every politician, whether extreme left, middle, to extreme right. So they all understand.
Ludwig, you disagree? Do you agree?
Yeah, I would never disagree with my friend Dirk, but I would add something. Yes, you're right, and I will support it with the money. But first of all, in some cases at least, and maybe it's a bit more in the Alpine space, and maybe a bit more on Sicily, that people feel like responsible and identify themselves with their localities. Okay, so I would not just reduce it to money. What you need, and I think Hannah would support that, you need the people, and you can approach the people that stand in for their environments and their social or societal groupings. But at the end, they will be few. So they are the ones that kick it off, they are the ones that we need to drive it. But to really get it done, and I would support Dirk, we need to look at money. And we are here storytelling. Okay, I quickly tell you the story that we had last week in our Decide member in Bad Hindelang, which is a small village in the Alps. And we had the representatives of the local government, the mayor, and the electricity supply organization, and everybody. And we discussed that in length. And at the end, the most convincing argument to everybody was that with all these carbon prices coming, and today I don't know how much we pay in Germany, is it 30 euros per ton of carbon? It will go to 60, and everybody knows that by 2030 it will be in the range of 200 euros per ton of carbon. And we calculated that in 2030 the average household will pay 1,500 euros, and not to the Russians, but carbon price as such to the government. And if you invest these 1,500s, and every single household invests these 1,500, you have a lot of local generation and storage.
Yeah, and you should always fight when they say the cost of the energy transition is too high. You should fight the use of the word cost. It's an investment with a return.
Yeah, I mean, if you give it away for paying the carbon price, it's cost. If you invest the same money into a local generation or grouping or whatsoever, then it's an investment. And it's not even more, it's almost the same price.
All right, we have 5 more minutes, and I would like, if we manage to answer 2 more questions that I find very interesting. The first one is, how can we include vulnerable groups into our energy communities? I have a feeling that Ista may know something about this, but as experts, just feel free if you want to start talking.
Vulnerable groups, it is people who don't have a roof. They can participate in energy communities to invest in a roof they don't have. A local roof, for instance, if you mean that by vulnerable people. Ludwig said something about saving cost on the long term. You can also think about health cost. If you invest in renewable energy, then you have a cleaner air, so it saves cost. And people who are are vulnerable because of their health, you can engage them by saying renewables is good for your health.
Sorry to interrupt quick. I think vulnerable groups is more like poor people, for example.
Yes. So yeah, subsidies. Yeah, it's true. Now sometimes renewable energy, local local produced energy of electricity is often, yeah, can be cheaper. Right? The commodity price is zero, and also the grid cost is a fixed fee, so you cannot save on that. But if you look at the heat transition, and some energy corporations take that on as well, and in the Netherlands that means stop using the gas but go for something else to heat your house. That's a big discussion. Because that will be very likely more expensive than gas. Though, yeah, if you, for the vulnerable group, it's good to start now and not in 2050, because if you change your system on normal time, on times then you have to refurbish anyway, then you save costs. And that's how to engage the vulnerable groups. But in general, if I look here at my community, they are not so interested in energy transition because they have other problems on their mind.
Dirk, do you want to add something?
Yeah, so when we look at the European Federation, we saw that several of our members have taken interesting initiatives to fight energy poverty. And as a federation, we also joined a coalition against energy poverty. And we have now we are engaged in two European Horizon 2020 projects on energy poverty, where we brought together these cooperatives. They learn from each other, and we also want to spread it across the whole movement, so that we want to take up a role, and that's also something that is even mentioned in the recitals of the new directives, that energy communities might take up a role there. But of course, to be able to fight energy poverty, we need projects. So we need the return from wind turbines. So that therefore it's crucial that in the rural areas in France, for instance, the wind turbines are not owned by a Danish investor. That they should be owned by the local people, so that the profits stay local, that you can do things with the income. But there are several interesting examples of energy communities trying to do something about energy poverty, insulating homes. A lot of them have a fund. They created a fund next to the cooperative. There are examples in the UK mainly, but also in Germany, in Flanders, Belgium. So that with part of the profits, they do things about insulation. And it is crucial, that's our experience, that you take people by the hand in making choices. So for instance, when a home is badly insulated, and you have to help them with making choices, which insulation, what do I do first, what kind of subsidies are there? So people are lost in the enormous amount of information they can find on the internet, and there an energy community is crucial, because the people can trust them. It's not for profit. The aim is to help them, not to make profit, and that's important that we take up this role as energy communities.
Thank you. Ludwig, you're looking like you want to add something. Can you do it in 1 minute?
Of course I can. What answer would you get if you would ask the same question to the incumbent, the existing system? How do you deal with the vulnerables and the energy poverty? I mean, they just unhook them from the grid, and that's it. That's the only solution that they have to provide. And that takes us to one of the main purposes and visions of the energy communities. The energy community can deal with this situation, having vulnerable people, poor people in their community. They can deal as they want. They can take responsibility. They can help people investing in the insulation if they don't have the money to maximize the self-supply in the region. So it's to the benefit of the energy community. They can make people that don't have money contribute with time or knowledge. So they have it in their hands. They do not depend on a global system that has only one answer, pay or you get disconnected. So we can create our own answers and we can be creative. And that is, for me, one of the biggest benefits of the energy communities.
And that is also a very nice statement to close out this round of discussion. Thank you everyone for participating. I will let my colleague Kilian do the closing.
Yes, so from, thank you very much. I wanna, am I on mute? No, I'm not on mute, wonderful. I want to say also thank you from my side, and I really want to say especially thank you to Hannah and Gerhard for giving us some first-hand insights in your project. Thank you to the experts